The Galactic Concordance had used the same testing system for 47,000 years. Every species that learned to travel faster than light came to Prime for evaluation. The tests measured 7 things: strength, thinking speed, energy powers, toughness, healing, mind powers, and how well someone could adapt in a fight. No species had ever scored higher than 8.7 out of 10 total. The system worked perfectly, or so everyone believed. When humanity's ship arrived at the assessment station, the aliens watching didn't expect much. These new creatures called humans looked ordinary enough. They stood on 2 legs, had 2 arms, came from a yellow star system on a water-covered planet. The initial scans suggested they would score somewhere between 3 and 4, which was normal for younger species just reaching the stars. Ambassador Wei walked into the Grand Hall with her security team. The place was massive, built to accommodate species of all sizes. Some observers were as small as house cats, others as large as elephants. Tried not to stare at the floating jellyfish-like beings or the walking crystals that seemed to hum with internal light. High Examiner Al greeted them. The crystalline being's body reflected light in rainbow patterns as it moved. Al's species had a rating of 7.9, among the highest in the galaxy. The examiner explained the testing process in a tone that made think of a teacher talking to slow students. Every species had to volunteer 1 person for complete testing. The results would decide everything: what trade deals humanity could make, where they could settle, what military duties they might owe. It was the single most important evaluation Earth would ever face. "We understand," said calmly. "We have our volunteer ready." Marine Sergeant stepped forward. He was 34 years old, had served in 3 combat zones, and stood exactly average height for a human male. He wasn't the strongest person Earth could have sent, or the fastest. He had volunteered because someone needed to and he was willing. That was enough. The assessment chamber hummed with technology humans barely understood. Devices lined the walls, floor, and ceiling. Some looked like machines, others like living things, and some easy description. Stood in the center and waited. The first tests began. They measured his baseline strength by having him lift increasingly heavy weights, managed respectable numbers but nothing exceptional. The rating came back at 4.2. His thinking speed test involved solving puzzles and managing multiple tasks at once. He did well but not remarkably. That score was 4.8. Energy manipulation came next. The device tested whether it could project force, generate heat, or control electricity naturally. He couldn't. Humans had no such powers. The rating was barely 0.3, essentially 0. His toughness measured at 3.9 after tests of pressure resistance and impact tolerance. His healing scored 2.1 when they gave him small controlled injuries and measured recovery speed. Al began preparing the standard report for moderate potential species. These humans would get basic membership rights, some trading privileges, and minor territory allowances. Nothing special. Then the combat adaptability test started. The simulation began simply. Faced one armed opponent in a basic arena. He won fairly quickly. The difficulty increased. 2 opponents. Then 3. Environmental hazards appeared. Handled them adequately. The AI controlling the test made things harder step by step, as it always did. At level 15, most species reached their limit. Their scores plateaued and their performance stopped improving. Didn't plateau. He kept getting better. Each time he failed a scenario, he tried again with new tactics. Each time he succeeded, he built on what worked. The observers started paying attention around level 20. By level 25, they were leaning forward in their seats. Wasn't just fighting anymore. He was learning the simulation itself, finding patterns, exploiting weaknesses in the scenario design. At level 31, he did something the test designers had never seen. He used an enemy's attack to trigger an environmental hazard that eliminated 3 opponents at once while he took cover behind debris that shouldn't have been strong enough to protect him. But he had noticed the debris was anchored more solidly than it appeared, and used that knowledge. Al watched the numbers climb: level 35, level 40, level 43. The previous record was 39, held by the war caste, who were literally bred for combat over thousands of generations. At level 47, after 4 straight hours, Al manually shut down the test, stood in the center of the chamber, breathing hard but still alert. His combat adaptability score had broken the scale. The system literally couldn't measure how high he had gone. Emergency alerts activated across the assessment station. The Concordance Council, which governed 74 species, convened immediately. They reviewed every data point 3 times. There had to be equipment malfunction. There had to be contamination. They recalibrated every instrument in the chamber. "We need to run it again," said Council Member Noor, whose species rated 6.8 overall. They did, scored even higher on the second attempt. He started at level 20 because he already knew the early scenarios. By the time they stopped him, he had reached level 52. The council chamber fell silent. Al's crystalline body dimmed with what might have been concern. "We need authorization for advanced testing protocols," the examiner said quietly. "I don't think we understand what we're measuring." Protested. "Sergeant has already done more than required. Surely this is enough data for evaluation." "Respectfully, Ambassador, we have no idea what this data means," Al replied. "We've tested species for 47,000 years. Nothing like this has ever happened. We need to know if this is an anomaly or if all humans can do this." Spoke up before could argue further. "I'll continue, ma'am. If it helps Earth's position, I can keep going." Looked at him with worry but nodded. "Very well, but I want medical monitoring at all times." Over the next 2 days, specialists arrived from across the station. Biologist evaluator Na came from the medical research wing. Her species held the durability record at 8.3. Combat Master arrived, a 4-armed being whose people were acknowledged as the galaxy's finest warriors. Psychic Adept, who could read mental states with incredible precision, joined the team. They would test in ways reserved only for species approaching maximum ratings. They would find his limits. They had to. The physical stress tests came first. They subjected to gradually increasing pressure. Most species failed catastrophically at their breaking point. Bones shattered, organs ruptured, consciousness fled. Humans seemed different. Under extreme stress, something changed in his body chemistry. His baseline strength of 4.2 suddenly spiked to 7.1 for short bursts. His pain tolerance increased dramatically. The monitoring equipment showed his body flooding itself with chemicals that acted like natural combat drugs. "This shouldn't be possible," Na said, studying the readouts. "He's voluntarily controlling survival reflexes. Most species can't do that. It's supposed to be automatic." Studied's brain activity. His pain receptors are functioning normally. He's not numb. He's simply deciding the pain doesn't matter and continuing anyway. I've never seen such deliberate self-override of survival instincts. They pushed harder. His body took damage that should have stopped him. He kept going. When they finally called the test, he had sustained injuries that would hospitalize a human for weeks. He stood up anyway, waited for medical treatment, and asked when the next test would begin. Designed a psychological test next. The psychic simulation attacked mental stability directly. It showed his worst fears: existential dread, identity dissolution, sensory deprivation. Could break most beings in under an hour using these techniques. Lasted 18 hours. More than that, he started analyzing the simulation aloud. "The isolation part is good," he said during a brief rest period, "but humans have monks who sit alone in caves for years. You'll need something different." "You know it's a simulation?" asked Stunned. "Of course, the pattern is too perfect. Reality is messier than this." They escalated. They showed everyone he loved dying. They showed Earth destroyed. They showed him failing over and over until existence seemed meaningless, grieved. The readings showed genuine emotional pain. Then he stood up in the simulation and said, "Okay, what's next?" Hal's voice cracked. "How can you continue after experiencing that?" "Because it's not real yet," answered. "And if it was real, stopping wouldn't help anything. Humans are good at getting back up." Reported to the team that evening. "I cannot break this human's will. I can hurt him psychologically, but I cannot stop him. His species seems to have no off switch for persistence." Combat Master entered the sparring ring with the next day. Had trained for 60 years in warfare. He had 4 arms, natural armor plating and reflexes that bordered on precognition. He expected to defeat easily, though respectfully. The match lasted 4 minutes, lost badly. Physical advantages were simply too much. "Again," said, standing despite cracked ribs. They fought 12 more times over 3 days, lost every single match. But something changed. The defeats became closer. Studied patterns between bouts, tested theories, tried new approaches. By the final fight, needed full concentration to win. "You will never defeat me in single combat," said afterward, respect clear in his voice. "Your biology won't allow it." "Probably not," agreed, wincing. "But I'd give you real trouble now, and if another human watched our fights and then fought you, they'd be more dangerous than I was at the start. That's the thing, we share what we learn. We get better together." Went quiet, understanding the implications. A species that weaponized learning itself. During recovery, Nunn noticed something strange about healing. His rating of 2.1 was accurate for speed. Humans healed slowly compared to many species. But the quality of healing was remarkable. Broken bones knitted back stronger. Damaged tissue reconstructed almost perfectly. His immune system learned from each injury. "They're not fast healers," Nutt told the council. "They're perfect healers. Most species with rapid healing pay costs, scarring, mutation, cancer, shortened. Humans heal slowly but correctly. They're built for surviving damage indefinitely." The research team compiled their findings. The pattern became clear. Individually, human capabilities were unremarkable, but the way different abilities worked together created something unprecedented. Moderate strength enhanced by voluntary chemical boost. Average toughness by perfect long-term healing. Decent intelligence amplified by relentless pattern recognition. Low energy powers offset by absolute psychological resilience. Most troubling was the adaptability. Humans didn't just improve with experience. They improved at improving. Each challenge made them better at facing new challenges. The observers could see no ceiling, no limit where growth stopped. "We need to run the combined scenario protocol," Al announced. The room went completely silent. The CSB had been used only 17 times in Concordance history. It tested everything at once under maximum stress. The scenarios escalated without limit until the subject achieved complete failure. The longest anyone had lasted was 31 hours. That warrior died 3 days later from accumulated damage. Was informed of the risks, the previous record holder, the mortality rate, the permanent injuries subjects sometimes sustained. "How long do you think I'll last?" he asked. Al's crystalline structure flickered. "Honestly, we no longer have any idea what to expect from your species." The combined scenario protocol chamber was enormous. A cubic kilometer of programmable space where anything could be simulated. Solid matter, energy fields, gravity, atmosphere, all could change instantly. Advanced AI systems generated opposition that learned and adapted, always staying just beyond the subject's current ability. Entered wearing basic armor and carrying standard weapons. The Concordance Council watched from protected observation rooms. Representatives from 74 species had arrived to witness this unprecedented evaluation. The first 12 hours performed admirably. He demonstrated the integrated capabilities the researchers had documented. He adapted tactics, managed limited resources, survived escalating threats. His combat style was efficient and ruthlessly practical. From hour 13 to 24, the simulation reached intensities that should have killed him. Sustained terrible injuries but continued fighting. His body's chemical response kept him mobile despite catastrophic damage. He used terrain, improvised weapons, turned enemies against each other. Observers watched in horrified fascination as he set his own broken bones and kept moving. Hour 25 to 36 should have been impossible. Medical scanners showed trauma incompatible with consciousness, yet persisted through what identified as complete dissociation from physical limitation. His mind had decided his body's limits were negotiable. He started talking to himself, maintaining focus through verbal self-regulation. Okay, left arm's gone, still got the right. 3 enemies, high positions. Fire spreading, that's opportunity. Move. From hour 37 to 52, the simulation AI reported anomalies. Wasn't just surviving anymore. He was thriving. Each near-death experience provided data. Each wound taught him his true tolerances. He entered a state observers struggled to classify. Beyond reason but not irrational, beyond pain but not numb, beyond fear but not fearless. Pure adaptation made conscious. At hour 53, the simulation escalated to scenarios designed for theoretical maximum-rated species. Faced enemies that violated physics, solved problems with incomplete information, survived in environments that shouldn't support human life. He kept going. At hour 58, Al made a discovery while reviewing the comprehensive data. Comparing against every species in the Concordance database, the pattern became undeniable. Humans weren't following the normal capability curve. Other species showed clear limits, hard ceilings where improvement stopped. Humans showed asymptotic growth. They could always get slightly better, always adapt marginally more, always push incrementally further. There was no maximum. There was only time and motivation. At hour 61, collapsed. Not from damage. His body had transcended what should have been fatal wounds hours ago. He collapsed from decision. The simulation presented a scenario with no solution using his current capabilities. After analyzing it for 17 minutes, he stopped. "I can't beat this," he said calmly to the observers. "Not yet. I'd need training I haven't had, equipment I don't have, or help from others. Alone, right now, this is my limit." The simulation deactivated. Medical teams rushed in. Was alive, conscious, and already trying to stand. "How'd I do?" he asked Ambassador through the scanner field. The Concordance Council convened in emergency session. Al presented findings that caused visible distress among representatives. "The rating system isn't broken," the examiner began. "It measures capabilities accurately as we define them. The problem is we designed it around species with fixed potential. Humans don't have fixed potential." Al displayed comparison data. Every species we've encountered reaches a capability ceiling determined by evolution and biology. You can train a warrior for 1,000 years. They'll approach, but never exceed their maximum around 8.7 combined rating. Humans have no such ceiling. Sargent, an average human by their standards, demonstrated sustained performance exceeding 12.3 combined rating during the CSB. But that's not his maximum. That's simply where we stop testing. Given different circumstances, training, equipment, or companions, his effective rating would be higher, possibly much higher. Worse, humans improve collectively. Each individual's experiences inform the whole species. The next human we test will benefit from everything learned. They'll start where he finished. Council member Noor spoke carefully. "What you're describing is an exponential threat. A species with no limits will eventually exceed everyone." "Not eventually," Al corrected. "The timeline is disturbingly short. Humans achieved technological civilization only 300 years ago, Yet they reached FTL travel, survived their own growing pains, and produced individuals like, in another 1,000 years, 10,000, they'll be beyond any current concordant species. Combat Master stood. I fought this human 13 times. I won every match. But I learned nothing. My species optimized our combat approaches over 100,000 years. Learned everything. The next human warrior who faces me will be more dangerous because I taught what works against my people. Now multiply that across every interaction humans have with the galaxy. Every trade negotiation teaches them commerce. Every diplomatic incident teaches them politics. Every conflict teaches them warfare. They're not just adaptable individuals, they're a civilization-wide learning algorithm. Psychic Adept added, and they cannot be broken psychologically. I tried everything. Experienced simulated horrors that would destroy any species I know. He suffered, grieved, then continued. Their psychology is stress makes them stronger. The council chamber fell silent as everyone understood the implications. We cannot rate them, Al concluded. Any rating we assign will be obsolete before we finish assessment. The universal power rating system assumes species have measurable, stable capabilities. Humans violate that assumption fundamentally. What do you propose? Asked council leader, whose species had maintained the system for 20,000 years. Al's crystalline structure dimmed. I propose we classify humanity as category Omega, undefined potential with indefinite growth vector. They represent either the greatest ally or the greatest threat the galaxy has ever encountered, possibly both. Ambassador addressed the council. She had watched testing with growing pride and concern. My people have a saying, hard times create strong people create good times create weak people, and weak people create hard times. It's a cycle we've repeated throughout our history. You've seen what one human can do when pushed to extremes. But you should know, we don't want to be pushed to extremes. We've survived extinction events, world wars, and our own worst impulses. We've learned, painfully, that strength without wisdom leads to destruction. She gestured to who stood despite medical team protests. Sergeant is extraordinary, but he's also ordinary for what humanity can produce when necessary. We have billions more like him. But we also have teachers, artists, healers, philosophers. We can be what you fear, yes, but we'd rather be what you need. Humanity seeks a place in the concordance not through dominance but through contribution. We'll share what we learn. We'll defend those who can't defend themselves. We'll push boundaries not to conquer but to explore. Give us partnership, and you'll find we're better friends than enemies. After 17 hours of deliberation, council leader delivered the decision. The universal power rating system is hereby suspended pending comprehensive review. In 47,000 years, we have never encountered a species that exceeded our ability to measure. Humanity has achieved that distinction. We offer humans provisional membership with unprecedented terms, no military obligations, no territorial restrictions, no capability limitations. Instead, we ask only that humanity agree to supervised integration, allowing us to learn from you as you learn from us. We propose mutual adaptation. The galaxy has been stable for 40,000 years. Stable, but stagnant. Perhaps what we needed was a species that doesn't accept limits to remind us that growth is still possible. Look directly at. Sergeant, you've broken our rating system, terrified our military specialists, confused our scientists, and earned the respect of beings who survived 100 times your species' entire history. On behalf of the Concordance, I welcome humanity to the galaxy, and I sincerely hope you'll teach us how to be better. 3 years later, the first human-led training facility opened on Prime. Volunteers from dozens of species arrived to learn what humans called adaptive resilience protocols. The curriculum covered physical training, psychological preparation, and most importantly, the human concept of never giving up. Now Chief Instructor stood before the first class of alien students. Behind him, a banner displayed Earth's new motto for galactic relations: "We rise together." "Welcome," he said with a slight smile. "Today we start with something simple. I want you to fail at something, then try again. Among my people, we say fall down 7 times, stand up 8. By the time we're done, you'll understand why we never stopped getting back up. And why we won't let you stay down either." The Concordants would never fully understand humanity. But over time, they learned something more valuable: how to adapt alongside the species that refused to stop adapting. The galaxy grew stronger not despite humanity's unlimited potential, but because of it. The rating system was never restored. It didn't need to be. The galaxy had learned a more important lesson than how to measure power. They learned how to grow beyond measurements entirely. The human species became known by many names across the galaxy: the undefined, the endless adapters, the species that wouldn't break. But the name that stuck, spoken with equal parts admiration and apprehension, was simply the ones who always rise.